Fame, money, cars, women. Did Hollywood have it all? Influenced by movies and television, Sid's idea of the perfect life was molded by the Hollywood glitz, glamour, and high life of what appeared to be the ultimate perfection. Sid decided that the only way to truly be happy was as a rich man.
My big goal was by age 30 to be a millionaire, because the movies and television taught me if you make $1 million, you'll be happy.
Convinced that being married so young was the obstacle between him and his ambitions, Sid did something drastic.
And I'm 29, and I know, my logical mind says to me, you're not going to make it by 30. And so I was very frustrated. And what I did, I'm not proud of, but I left my wife, I left my daughter, and I left my job. And I went searching for happiness, but my life didn't get better. My life was getting progressively worse. It was deteriorating.
Sid's search for happiness led him into the singles bars. All he discovered were more people just like him, lonely and unhappy. Frustrated at the direction his life was headed, Sid learned of a mind control course that would expand his mental and psychic powers with a sixth sense. Could this be a way to control his destiny? Desperate, he decided to take the class. At first, it appeared that nothing was happening.
They taught me how to lower my concentration and kind of meditate and lower my brain waves to get real passive. And then at that point that I would be extremely passive, they would tell me to invite an imaginary friend inside of me. They called it a counselor, and I thought it was a bunch of hogwash. But they said they'll give me a test. And if the test didn't work, I'll get my money back. I wanted my money back, so I stayed to the end of the course, and they gave me the graduation test. They gave me, like on a file card, someone's name that I'd never heard of, and they said, ask your counselor what's wrong with this person. All of a sudden, I saw a vision. I'd never seen anything. I saw like a stick figure of a woman, and I saw an X over one of her breasts, and I just blurted out, does this woman have cancer of the breast? And the person looked at me, because on the other side of the card was the physical condition that was wrong with them, that looked at me and they said, wow, that's exactly what's wrong with this person. I started progressing with this counselor, with this power, and the power started increasing. And I was very happy over that. And I reached a point where I could say, I want to go into business for myself. I would just make this statement. And just literally, hours later, someone came into my office. It was a businessman that I knew very casually. And he said, Sid, my partner and I have been observing you, and we have some extra office space. If you would ever like to go into business for yourself, we'll give you a free office, free secretary, free telephone till you get on your feet.
Sid now felt that with this counselor on his side, life would fall into place. He immediately accepted the invitation. His first surprise came when he learned that all of his associates were Christian businessmen. They invited Sid to their Bible study. He was quick to challenge their beliefs. His involvement with the occult did not go unnoticed.
One day, one of the men walked into my office, one of the partners, and he said, Sid, I've pretty much reached my limit with you. Do you know you're an abomination to God? What? I'm a Jew. What do you know? He said, in your own Torah, in your own Jewish scriptures, in Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter, God calls the New Age that you're involved in an abomination. And I read it there, and I said to myself, this isn't true. On the 1% chance that this is true, I think maybe I won't talk to this counselor, and maybe I'll read this book. It's my book. I'm a Jew. I'll read the Bible a little bit. And I got the shock of my life. This counselor, who was always so friendly to me, would answer my questions. Actually, it was like a spirit guide that I had invited into myself. all of a sudden, for the first time, started cursing. And, I mean, it shocked me.
That night, unable to sleep, Sid wandered the streets. He came across a bookstore, and in his browsing, he was attracted to a certain book. The book, titled The Bible, the Supernatural, and the Jews, wrote of famous Jewish men and women who had lost their lives, apparently because of their involvement with the New Age. Some of these people, Sid had idolized.
My idol, my hero, man that had everything I wanted, Brian Epstein, the Jewish business manager of the Beatles. He died. And this book proceeded to state one Jew after another Jew, because we're under a covenant with God, that died from being involved in the New Age. This author said, yes, it's an abomination, but it's worse for a Jew. And the reason that it's worse for a Jew is we Jews have a covenant from God. A Gentile doesn't have a covenant from God. I reached my point. I was afraid to go to sleep at night. I wasn't looking for God, but it just clicked. I'm tied in with something evil.
Sid also began to practice a dark art, one that would finally bring Sid to a horrifying conclusion about the New Age powers he was involved in.
I broke into this astral projection, and about right at that point, a woman says to me, oh, that's so wonderful, but be careful. Once you break into this, every time you go to sleep, your spirit leaves your body and goes for a walk. I literally could picture myself falling asleep and my spirit leaving my body, and my roommate coming in, as I separated at the time, my roommate coming in, shaking me and saying, oh, he's dead, and being buried alive.
Frightened more than ever in his life, Sid hit rock bottom. His sleepless nights were tormented by the evil thoughts that consumed his mind.
There was nowhere that I could go. And I thought I could go to myself, because I'd always been able to solve every difficulty. Everything was done for me. It was easy. Life was easy, but now life was too hard. I had a Bible at this point, and I put it under my pillow, and I called my wife.
Sid once again began to question life and his own existence. What happens when you die? Is there an afterlife? Is there really a hell? Could it possibly be worse than what he was suffering? What about heaven? Surely God had turned his back on him for turning away from his wife and child. Sid abandoned everything, including his religion, and now he had the audacity to beg for mercy. But God heard his prayer, the prayer of a humbled man. He also heard the prayer of his wife, a prayer of an honest woman. And something miraculous happened.
And I woke up the next morning, and I had something that I never had my whole life. I never had in the New Age, never had in the occult. I had on the inside of me, I can just say it was like a peace that was just streaming, running through my whole body, my fingers, my feet, and I didn't even think about fear. I didn't even think about that demon that was inside. I didn't think about wanting to die. I wanted to live. I wanted to live. And then I heard a voice for the first time in my life, and I didn't think it was God. I knew it was God. And God said, return to your wife and daughter.
Hearing God's voice for the first time, Sid was quick to act. Changing literally overnight, he returned to his wife, a different man. This peace, Sid realized, was exactly what had been missing. For the first time in his life, Sid was content. He shared his testimony with anyone that would listen. Sid's new goal, to be a better husband and father. To share with his family the peace he now felt.